My girlfriend left me while I was deployed abroad. Years later, she returned asking for my help to get away from the man she had been with. I had been deployed in Afghanistan, and when I finally returned home, I walked through the arrival gates, but my girlfriend Abigail wasn't there. I ordered a cab to my apartment, and as soon as I stepped inside, I heard her crying hard in the bathroom. When she finally opened the door, I saw her standing there, holding a positive pregnancy test. Tears streamed down her face, and in that moment, my heart dropped to a level I had never experienced before. It took me what felt like an eternity to form a sentence, and the whole time, Abigail kept begging me to say something. The first question that escaped my lips was, "How far along are you?" She replied, sounding guilty, "1 month." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. All I could think about was where I had been just a month ago, deep in Kabul, fighting for my life. Watching my brothers fall around me, knowing I could be next. The only thing that kept me going was Abigail. I saw her face in the stars at night, heard her voice telling me I could do this, and pictured her standing at my funeral, crying uncontrollably. I had to make it for her, and I did. But while I was fighting for my life, she was in bed with another man, without protection. The image crashed over me like a tidal wave, igniting a fire of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. I asked her who the father was, and when she whispered a name I didn't recognize, I lost it. I yelled at her, my vision clouded with red. How could the same person who talked about spending our lives together be pregnant by another man? The thought infuriated me. I yelled at the top of my lungs, my voice echoing throughout the apartment. She tried to explain, but I didn't want to hear it. I left her in the bathroom and slammed the door shut, the wood cracking down the middle like lightning had struck it. Abigail screamed in horror. I stormed into the living room and flipped the coffee table, the shattering glass on the hardwood floor deafening. I punched a hole in the TV mounted above, and it crashed to the floor. My hands were red from the wounds, and I realized I needed to calm down. I didn't want to hurt Abigail. I knew I never would. But the rage coursing through me made me unsure of what I was capable of, so I left. The next day, I returned to the wreck of an apartment, and Abigail was gone. The only thing left was a note on what remained of the coffee table. She said she was leaving and feared for her life. I understood, but I knew I would never put my hands on Abigail. If this was what she wanted, I would respect her decision. I only wanted to see her happy. After everything we had been through together, I never thought it would end like this. She was my everything, the one who gave my life meaning. Abigail was there for me when my parents and brother tragically passed away in a car accident. I lost my entire family in one night, but Abigail helped me pick up the broken pieces of my heart and sew them back together. She was there when I woke up from nightmares about my past, and I thought we were meant for each other. I had adored Abigail since we were 18, fresh out of high school, planning to go to the same college. Everything was fine until her parents found out she was bisexual. They told her it was against their religion and kicked her out, leaving her with nowhere to go. We were young and broke, unable to stay with my parents because the college was out of state. I sold everything I had to save up for us. I got a job to provide for us, which is how I ended up in the military. Now all I had left of her was that note. Everything in our lives had been scattered away because she decided that getting into bed with some man was worth more than everything we had built together. She left behind everything for him. The realization made my heart ache. I walked into the bathroom and turned the knob on the broken door, but it broke off in my hand. I sighed and looked in the mirror. My eyes were bloodshot, and dark bags hung beneath them. I left the apartment and went to the liquor store. Days turned into weeks, and I felt myself losing control. I spiraled into a dark abyss. The PTSD I fought so hard to control took over, and I drowned my sorrows in alcohol. Abigail had been my lifeline, and now she was gone. It was my best friend Mark who found me one night in a dingy bar. We had served together in the military and grown close. He didn't say a word when he saw the state I was in, the empty bottles, the mess. He simply hauled me to my feet and took me to his place. I resisted at first, but Mark stayed by my side. He didn't lecture me. He just stayed there until I could sober up a bit. The withdrawal, and I often woke up in cold sweats. I craved the numbness I felt when I drank. I was tired of dealing with my emotions. With Mark's help, I started to piece my life back together. It wasn't easy, and every day was a struggle. The cravings didn't disappear, and the pain didn't magically go away. I learned to manage my PTSD better, finding a glimmer of hope in routine. Months passed, and I began to feel like myself again. One Saturday, I went to the mall. As I approached a shoe store, I caught a familiar figure out of the corner of my eye. I almost didn't believe it at first, but there she was, Abigail. She stood outside a baby clothing store, holding the hand of a man who could only be the father of her child, the man she had chosen over me. It had been months since I'd seen her, and the shock of her appearance hit me like a punch to the gut. Abigail looked awful. The vibrant woman I had loved was nowhere to be seen. Her hair, once beautifully kept, hung limply around her face. Dark circles surrounded her hollow eyes. Her shoulders slumped, and her clothes hung off her. The man beside her, whom I assumed was the father, looked impatient, his grip on her hand firm and possessive. He was tall, with a stern expression, his gaze focused elsewhere, seemingly oblivious to Abigail's distress. I stood there, frozen, my heart aching at the sight. Seeing her like this stirred something deep within me. She wasn't happy. She was suffering, just as I had. The man glanced back at her, looking irritated. Our eyes met briefly, and Abigail seemed happy to see me, but she quickly looked away, her hand tightening around the man's. But not before I saw the silent plea in her eyes. I watched them disappear into the crowd as I made my way back to my car. I couldn't shake the feeling that our paths had crossed for a reason. It felt like another opportunity to help her, to show my love. It hurt to see her like this, and I knew I could make it better. That night, I went for a run. When I got back, her name lit up on my phone. She texted me, and my heart raced as I opened it. I was shocked, but felt a tingle of joy that I hadn't misread her eyes at the mall earlier that day. She sent a long text expressing how sorry she was for cheating on me, and how she wished she never had this guy's baby or married him. I told her I forgave her, and she asked if we could meet up later that week. I agreed. A couple of days went by, and we met at a quiet cafe. As soon as she saw me, she burst into tears. She told me how he treated her, and how she thought she was doing the right thing by not forcing me to be the father of someone else's child, but ended up trapped in a nightmare. She had been my world, and seeing her like this broke my heart all over again. I decided to take care of it, promising her she wouldn't have to suffer anymore. She asked if we could get back together, but I said no. The only reason I agreed to help her was to prove that I still loved her and that the loyalty we had over the years hadn't died. So I did some digging. I spent hours on social media piecing together fragments of information from Abigail's posts and comments. The man Darren wasn't hard to find. He had a routine and habits that were easy to trace once you knew what to look for. Public check-ins at the gym, photos tagged at his favorite bar, and even a few work-related posts gave me a roadmap of his daily life. One evening, I parked a few blocks away from their house. The engine ticked quietly as it cooled. I felt a familiar tension work its way into my muscles, the same feeling I had on missions, that heightened awareness sharpening my senses. I watched their house from a distance, noting the comings and goings, the lights flicking on and off. Darren left the house around 8 p.m., heading to the gym as he did every Tuesday. I followed at a safe distance, noting the comings and goings, the lights flicking on and off. Darren left the house around 8 p.m., heading to the gym as he did every Tuesday. I followed at a safe distance, my heart pounding in my chest. The darkness hid me. He was a creature of habit, sticking to the same route and parking in the same spot. I observed him from my car, hidden in the shadows, as he walked into the gym. It was a 24-hour place, and it wasn't unusual for people to come and go at all hours. I waited, the minutes stretching into what felt like hours, until he finally came out, sweat-soaked and carrying a gym bag. He didn't notice me as he walked to his car. I felt a rush of adrenaline. I knew this was it. As I was about to attack Darren, a man who seemed to recognize him showed up, and they started talking. I knew I couldn't act now. It would be too risky. So I waited in my car until they were done. But before I could get to him, he was in his car, and the bar was his next stop. I followed him there, parking across the street and watching as he went inside. The neon lights flickered, casting a sickly glow on the pavement. I waited, knowing that alcohol would make him an easier target. Hours passed, and the bar began to empty. It was close to closing time when Darren finally stumbled out, his steps unsteady and demeanor aggressive. I stepped out of my car, feeling my pulse in my throat. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I shadowed him as he made his way to his car, walking as quietly as possible. He didn't see me coming. I grabbed him from behind and dragged him into the alley behind the bar. I caught him off guard, and he struggled, but I had the upper hand. I pressed him against the brick wall and didn't hold back. I let out years of frustration on this dude. When it was over, I walked away, leaving him in a state of minced meat, not the lean kind. I left that bar feeling accomplished, proud. I knew that guy wouldn't be putting his hands on Abigail ever again. Abigail never contacted me again after that, and I didn't seek her out. I had done what I could for her, and that was enough. I found a strange peace in knowing that the last thing I did for her was protect her, even if it wasn't the kind of protection I had once dreamed of offering. Life went on. I focused on my recovery, leaning on Mark and the support system I had built. The nightmares never completely went away, and the pain of losing Abigail was a constant ache. But I learned to live with it. I found new things to live for and new goals to strive toward. One day, as I was walking through the park, I saw a couple playing with their young child. They were laughing, seeming like the perfect family. I felt a sense of sadness, but also a bit of hope. Maybe someday I'd find that kind of happiness again. For now, I was content with the knowledge that I had survived. I had been to hell and back, but I was still standing, and that was enough.